More drama in the CS scene because, of course, we do. We've had an event, EPL, and it has thrown up, well, the aftermath has thrown up some drama. And going in the middle of it, there was some drama. So we'll start with Astralis, since we were talking about Denmark. And, just for context at the start of the segment, obviously Astralis, they are the biggest show in town. They are the biggest show in town in Denmark. They have actual brand recognition. They get noticed, when they're out and about and treated like celebrities. When you go to Denmark, you will see Astralis jerseys being worn. You don't see that anywhere else really in the world. It's very rare to see outside of an esports event. But in Denmark, particularly in Copenhagen, I have seen people just walking around, kids, Astralis jerseys, and you go, okay, they're a big deal. And because of that, I've always alluded to, I use a fun, non-serious term of the Danish mafia, but you have to understand there's a lot going on. Blast is obviously a Danish company, and Astralis, they used to have relationships with Blast. They were like the co-founders, and then they divested and all this other stuff historically. I won't bore you with that. But, Blast was a Danish company. Astralis are the biggest Danish org. HLTV are a Danish news outlet. And so there's been this intimation that actually there's a lot going on behind the scenes to enable Astralis to get away with a bunch of shit. And there has been one person that has repeatedly caught Astralis out, whether it's to show that they have ownership here, or they've lied about percentages that players have, or whatever, most recently the Hunden stuff and the sabotaging of Heroic. And I've got them. I've absolutely had them bank rights every step of the way. By the way, the Hunden files on the Substack, in my opinion, is the most impactful piece of journalism I've done since having that Substack. Although people would say, the announcing CS2 was huge. It's like, no, the Hunden files led to Astralis getting fined $100,000 in Hunden, and Casper Hit essentially being told you can't stay here, it's not tenable. So, if you want to go and look at the Substack and read up on that stuff, there's like 4 or 5 articles breaking down all of the things that went on behind the scenes. But essentially, Astralis are like, they're crazy. They engage in like fucking corporate sabotage and fucking, just anything. They just wanted to decimate Heroic. I mean, the Stown and Yabby stuff is an extension of that. Right? Like, they wanted to get Heroic's best 2 players and, bring them in. And first, Cadian gets kicked. And then they move across to join the staff member that used to work at Heroic, who also left to go to Astralis. It's fucking crazy how they operate. And so a lot of people have said down the years that they get, like, all this preferential treatment from all of these, orgs and people that they partner with and everything else. So let's go back. Last time out, previously on Richard Lewis's stream and YouTube channel, we were talking about Cadian and the Cadian announcement. And one of the things that happened in that announcement was that they were cutting Bro from the roster. And I said this was inevitable, that Bro was one of those guys that was just going to be served up on the altar of Astralis progress, like they've done with all the other young players, in the past. And so last time out, I was talking about this move, and I was saying I feel sorry for Bro. I think he had a real harsh time of it. I've watched Hot Take Point Made since then. Duncan Thorin thinks this is going to be a total fucking disaster. Maui thinks that actually it's not going to be that bad, but they missed out on Hooksy. I obviously don't agree with any of those opinions. I think this should... Device was not going to cut it as an IGL. Cadian, we know, can cut it as an IGL. If everybody can put all the bullshit behind him, it doesn't matter that Cadian's going to be a subpar rifler if everybody plays well within his system and he can get Stown and Yabby playing like they used to, because let's be clear, for $2 million, they've not been good since they joined Astralis. They've been very ordinary. Stown, especially in the big games, goes missing. Device is playing out of his skin and was still posting good numbers while he was an IGL. And so Cadian, so it's a good move, but you can watch that video, watch that VOD. But the Bro part is what we're going to focus on today. And so they cut Bro, and it turned out that they didn't give any special like farewell to bro or anything like that. It was pretty wild. So the announcement was this. It said, following an agreement with Team Liquid, the 29-year-old Danish star transfers to Astralis with immediate effect, replacing Alexander Bro on the main roster. Now, usually when a player goes out, you put a little thing like, oh, you know, even if they're only getting benched, you say, we'd like to thank them, you know, for the contribution to the team, and we're going to hopefully help them find another team, or if the contract's expired or you're releasing them, you say, best of luck in the future, you know, just something like that. That's just standard boilerplate shit that you just throw there on a statement, whether you mean it or not. You know, I've made jokes about it in previous videos, haven't I? Where certain orgs thank players when they're cutting the, like, there was that, what org was it that cut that fucking roster that had, like, fucked up and said something fucking racist or crazy, and they cut them, and then they said, we thank them for their time. Like, no, don't thank them. Like, you don't have to thank them in that circumstance. But generally, what you have to do is you just say something nice on the way out, because obviously he has given you some loyal service, and you are essentially impacting in his career in a negative way. So he didn't get any kind of send-off or anything like that. And it kind of it kind of like spilled out. Let me get what his agent said about it. Have at least some class and give Alex some mention for the good services he did for you in the time being. Nevertheless, bro is on the market and we are allowed to talk to teams. And so it was observed by his representation that, yeah, they actually haven't said anything positive. And Christian Lenz, who is the founder of Big, you'll know him. He's been in esports for ages. He's a fucking legend. He followed up and said Astralis never gave a fuck. I was hoping that, it's my boy, Casper Strauber, will bring some positive quality when he joined. Not sure if he is talking to walls or if he adapted to bad and respectless management. And so, you know, people in the space kind of observed that there was something wrong with the way that they did the send-off. KRL as well kind of like chimed in and replied, and he's spot on in his assessment here. I also want to add that Astralis have zero vision on young talent, and that's why they struggle so much today. Buzz didn't deserve to be benched. Bro now, they don't learn. And obviously we've got others in there like Lucky and people like that. You know, they have a Astralis talent team. And anytime that team does well and you see these like players like graduating, if you like, or being used by the senior team, that's pretty much the end of their career. That's like when it all goes wrong. You know, what they did to Bubsky is absolutely criminal. Zyphon obviously went off the rails as well. You know, it's like, how much like raw talent and potential can you afford to throw away because you can't manage it? You know, it's really fucked up. I mean, one of the $100 patron things I'm going to be covering soon, I've scripted it out finally, is kind of like the legacy of Mike Tyson. And it's not so much about the boxing. The true legacy of Mike Tyson is how one positive man in his life turned him around and turned him into a world champion. And when that man passed away and worse people started to influence him, it completely fucked his fucking life up. And it's like, you will never understand how relevant that is to the world of esports. And it just happens all the time. There's just people in cheap suits like that just promise these kids the world and then completely misuse their talent, and that sometimes there really is no bouncing back. Sometimes you do just end up on the scrap heap. Esports is a very competitive industry, very hard to get into, like sports, you know, where like 1% of every kid who goes through the youth system might actually get contracted to a team. And I don't mean a Premier League team, you know, I mean any team that can afford to pay you a part-time salary to play football. 1%. That's how fine the margins are. And think about all of the heartbreak that goes along that way. You know, I've been around it. I did youth coaching. I've been around it. I've seen kids told by scouts from Premier League clubs. Like, I've seen kids who are like lights out. County trials, they fucking smash it. They're the best player at their fucking school or their college, and a fucking scout comes down, watches one game where they're forced to play out a position, and then says, "You haven't got it. Sorry, bye." And that's that. And they're just left crying. They're just left, you know, parent on the fucking touchline consoling them, saying, "Oh, I'm sure you'll get another chance." No, you won't. That scout's going to talk to dozens of other scouts. That was it. That was your shot. It can be over like that. And so one of the things I've always hated about what Astralis do is the way they just fucking sacrifice these young players. It's like, if you have a talent team, great, that's good. That's positive for young players. Gives them a place to play. There's all these youth and academy leagues now. It's good. But ultimately, if you don't have a plan to develop them once they get into the top team, and there's a tacit understanding that they will be the first out if you get an opportunity to sign an established Tier 1 pro, you shouldn't really be using them in the first place. You should skip that gamble on their development because you don't have a plan. Compare that to Mouse. Right? Now, Mouse did it out of necessity because they don't have the money Astralis have. But that Mouse team's up there, top 5 team in the world, and they've been up there all through CS2, end of CSGO, and they're all academy players. But why? They have a plan for development. They played in academy leagues. They played in that Where We Play league, and they fucking, they played in there for ages, played together for ages, and one at a time, they brought them in. They have a really good coach over there, a really good coaching apparatus, really good analyst apparatus. Zipnik's in there now. And one at a time, they've brought them in, and now they have a great team. Astralis incapable of doing that, despite the fact they've had similar raw talent to work with, I would go so far as to say. Anyway, they didn't give him a farewell. The agent had to call him out. Another founder from another org had to call him out. And Astralis, let me get the response. They said they didn't do it because, I'll put Nicola Nyholm's response up. He said, "We haven't departed with Bro yet, and it wouldn't have made any sense to try and compliment him in news as big as yesterday, where the focus should always be on Katie and Yabby and Stown. But critique taken, we should be faster with the follow-up." Now, as I said, I've talked to Nicola Nyholm in the great Richard Lewis adversaries, universe, all the villains I've done battle with. I kind of warmed to him in person, actually, and I get it. Like, he's always just done what ruthlessly he had to do, and I was the nemesis trying to stop it. But you put us in a room with each other, we can respect the game, and I've got a lot of time for people like that. Was he doing anything that was evil? No, he was just embroiled in lots of conflict of interest and public lies. It's really, now that we're Saudi Arabian state owned, Nicola Nyholm like not even a drop in the bucket, so it's fine. I'll still call him out on his shit, but we can have a beer. And so anyway, I don't even think he's that involved with any of this stuff anymore. He certainly has said so behind the scenes, but I think he's the one savvy, no pun intended, enough to come out and sort of address this, and he's going to carry the can for things that weren't on him. It was on like their PR guy, it's on Casper Straub. I mean, it's just common sense in a PR release to put in a little thank you for the player. It would have only had to be 2 sentences, and then there is no criticism. So let's move on to what comes next. And despite saying it would have made no sense to do it, they then go ahead and do it. So they say, "Thank you for everything, bro." Following yesterday's transfer announcement, we want to take this opportunity to express our appreciation for Bro and his contributions. The truth is, we felt his acknowledgement might have been overshadowed by the attention surrounding Cadian's transfer and the history behind it. Of course, we want to emphasize how much we value Bro's dedication, hard work, and passion while wearing the Astralis jersey. His recognition deserves its moment, standing respectfully on its own, says Sports Director Casper Strauber. His commitment and work ethic, both this spring and fall, have undoubtedly made a significant impact on the team. We're truly grateful for everything he's brought to the roster and for his time with us, Strauber adds. So thank you for your contribution, bro. Like, I'll tell you what, I don't think Bro was the truth in terms of being a player. I just think that even if a player isn't great, you still kind of owe it to thank them. And I'll say this, I thought he was a good kid in terms of, like, the way he handled pressure and interviews. And, he used to say some really cool stuff. Like, he's on record as saying, "I'm glad we beat Cadian for my teammates." Stabby, he did that. He said this as well, like he doesn't mind dying as long as we go on to win the round. It feels like a success. I'm not scoreboard oriented. He had a good head on his shoulders, and like you just totally fucking ignored that so we could do this kind of thing. So I definitely felt sorry for him. Anyway, Nicola Nyholm then followed it up with his own shout-out and said, quick shout-out to two people. Bro, for his dedication over the past half year. Time and experience will be on his side. And Liquid Nazgul for always being a rock in the scene and facilitating a transfer in less than 36 hours. So this is obviously Victor Guzans, founder of Team Liquid, and Nazgul is his gamer name. That's, by the way, why Team Liquid, for those who don't know, just a little interesting fact, the reason Team Liquid's logo is a horse is it's meant to be when Gandalf calls up the water to get the ring wraiths, and he puts like the horse flourish on the waves. That's why it's a horse, and he's a big Lord of the Rings fan. Anyway, kind of interesting that this deal got done in 36 hours. And we speculated on the last video, didn't we? We said, surely they must have had to talk to like Stown and Yabby and get all this stuff, get all this stuff fucking going. And we don't know if that's true now. 36 hours. Now they're arguing about who did it. In the book, not the movie, it's Elrond, but Gandalf adds the flourish of the horses because he brags about it. Because remember, Gandalf is in with all the horses. Shadowfax is like a fucking lord among the horse people. The horse are a people. It's like that. So yeah, if you're a movie fan, you wouldn't get all of that. So anyway, this is not devolving into a Lord of the Rings stream, guys. Especially not while Rings of Power Season 2 is happening. Right? We just... We're not doing it. So 36 hours isn't a long time, and it makes me wonder, like, how quickly this came together, why it came together. I'm guessing there was a frank talk with Device, and he was told, like, the IGL's not working out. We need to get our shit together for the major. We want to pick up an IGL. Hooksy or Cadian, which one? Like, that's all I can imagine happened. I mean, 36 hours is such a short period of time for a transfer of this magnitude. So I thought that was really interesting. Not a lot of people have talked about that. But anyway, Bro didn't get his flowers, and Bro should have had his flowers. And it's kind of crazy that he didn't, when he definitely deserved at least just a thank you on the way out. So anyway, he got his thank you in the end, and everybody went, oh, okay, well, that's the end of that then. But then there was an announcement, and it was very, very disturbing. It was this. Astralis are getting Cadian in for the fall finals, Blast Fall finals, as an emergency sub. And this is fantastic to see. This is the quality of Mira as a journalist. Was it against the rules? It's if you were to say to me, because of all that Danish, interlinking connections, I wouldn't have expected to see this article on HLTV, frankly. And it does seem to have rattled Astralis, which we'll get to in a moment. But they're not even letting Bro have the send-off of playing the last event he's registered for. They are saying Bro is sick and we have to bring Cadian in now. So in other words, he doesn't get his farewell, thanks for everything, last tournament. They're going to bend the rules, break them, I would argue, to bring in Cadian, and Blast have allowed them to do this. So here's the report from Mira. Astralis completed the surprise signing of Kasper Cadian Muller on September 17th, reuniting the Danish captain with his former heroic friends, Martin Staunlund and Jakob Yabi Nygaard. After the trio's unceremonious split at the end of 2023 and handing the 29-year-old the team's reins from Device. In theory, Cadian's first event with Astralis would have been IEM Rio, considering the deadline for roster submissions for Blast Fall Finals had already passed. But Astralis said when they unveiled Cadian, the players' first official matches with the main team will take place at Blast Premier Fall Final, raising the level of hype for the team's campaign at the event. So, understand, in the initial announcement, Astralis were just so confident, so this was either pre-agreed upon, behind the scenes, or they just knew they were going to tell a lie and get away with it. They announced he would be playing at Blast Premier Fall Final, even though the registration date was done. So as Mira points out, Cadian was not part of the roster submitted by Astralis or any other team attending the fall final, Blast confirmed to HLTV. And according to Blast Premier's rulebook, a team's roster must be submitted to Blast at least 3 weeks prior to the applicable tournament stage. The fall final starts on September 25th, meaning the deadline was September 4th, almost 2 weeks before Cadian's signing was announced. So why is Cadian allowed to play? Very good fucking question, right? Well, we all know why, because Astralis gets what Astralis wants. I'm putting the finishing touches on an article. It's called what's in the title of the stream. It's going to be called Astralis Aren't Beating the Allegations, and it's just basically like a little think piece about how actually out of all of the esports orgs I've covered down the years, I think Astralis might be the dirtiest. I honestly think with all of the shit they've engaged in, they might be the dirtiest org I've ever covered. Because EG, a lot of it was incompetence. There was some malevolence there, but they didn't do it for a long period of time. Astralis have been at it ever since they came back into existence. Community lies, all the shit behind the scenes. It's really crazy. I mean, FaZe, yeah. Nip, sure. But, I mean, they're right up there. They are right up there. And it's outrageous, actually. I mean, it really is. Anyway, why is Cadian allowed to play? HLTV has learned that shortly before Astralis unveiled Cadian, Blast sent an email to the teams attending the fall final informing them it had approved an emergency addition to Astralis' roster due to a medical emergency with one of the team's players. So, what you are supposed to believe, right, is prior to them publicly announcing Cadian's signing, Bro had a medical emergency that is going to last just the entirety of the tournament, and it started before they'd even announced Cadian was signed. No further details were provided, and Astralis' announcement made no mention that Bro, the player who made way for Cadian, was dealing with any sort of health issues. According to the tournament's rulebook, teams can apply for an emergency replacement after the roster deadline, due to issues such as illness, injury, and travel disruption, and the acceptance or rejection of an emergency replacement will be decided by Blast on a case-by-case basis at its sole discretion. So in other words, we can violate our own rules if we want to, because we're the tournament, and that's certainly what we're doing here. Blast has never publicly stated Astralis requested an emergency substitution for the event, but Bro's agent, the guy that we just saw complaining about... By the way, do you understand now why it's a good idea to just be, like, civil and treat people nicely, Astralis? Because none of this would be happening if you just given Bro his flowers. Probably this guy would have kept his mouth shut. Weird how that works. Anyway, this was the tweet. So remember, this is the guy who represents Bro, and he just says, and this is a big oof, a mega oof, as we represent Bro, teams have reached out to me regarding his health or medical condition. He is fully fine. Obviously unfortunate he got benched. Nevertheless, Alex is fully healthy and ready to perform, so feel free to keep reaching out. Okay, so his representation, who has the proxy of the player to say these things, is saying he's fine. So, okay, we know Astralis have lied about the medical emergency. What are you going to do about it, Blast? They've lied. They've gamed the system. There's definitely rules about that in your rulebook. But Blast aren't going to do anything. And then you have to ask yourself why. And I'm going to get to why this matters in just a moment. Although, obviously, you can see it is another massive competitive integrity violation. Oh, and it's Astralis doing it again. So, the initial Astralis roster... Oh, hang on, we got a first-time chatter here. We always talk to them. Aura 81. Man, I've been a fan of Astralis. They're all lined up since the Dignitas days where they'd always choke at semis. I know that only Device left from the OG lineups, but I can't support a new team. It's a fucking shame the management puts arguably the greatest CSGO team's reputation into the ground. Look, unfortunately, guys, this is the nature of the beast in esports. You know, it's like, imagine being an EG fan and that management comes in and they do all those terrible things and then have to essentially gut the org. It's really hard. It's really hard. Like, you know, I've got some empathy with you because obviously I'm a Newcastle fan. I've supported Newcastle all of my life from the moment I could conceptualize and understand football. You know, about 8 years old, I became a serious Newcastle supporter. You know, I've been to the games, used to go regularly, used to live in Newcastle. I've got a ton of fucking history and memorabilia and stuff. And then they get bought by the Saudi Arabian state. The same thing, because obviously life's a simulation. None of this is real. Don't take it too seriously. The thing I'm railing against in esports buys my beloved football club. Because it's not real. I mean, that couldn't really happen. So now I have to stop supporting them. But it's hard. It's hard on a weekend. I feel myself like just, oh, bloody hell. Newcastle have got the Sunday. It doesn't. I've already paid for the package, so I'm not buying a pay-per-view. But what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to not look, cancel an entire football pay-per-view package because Newcastle get a share of that revenue whether I watch the games or not. So I get it. I know what it's like to have a team you love, and you'll support them through thick and thin. Players being bad, not winning trophies, being an embarrassment. Astralis are doing that anyway. But when they're owned by pieces of shit, it's tough. It's real tough. Anyway, the initial Astralis roster submitted for the event, HLTV learned, featured the team's full lineup at the time, including Bro and head coach Kasper Rugger. The Danish organisation did not register a substitute, though Blast's rulebook states that coaches may be used as an extra substitute if required. In line with that rule, Rugger could have replaced Bro without the need for an emergency substitute. And so what Astralis did, Astralis have said that Rugger's not available either. So we're not even breaking one rule, we're breaking two. We already have the solution, we already have a rule, and nope, sorry, Rugger fell down the stairs. Can't play. Contacted by HLTV, Blast said that Astralis requested an emergency substitution, and based on the information provided to us at that time, this was granted. According to the tournament organizer, the Danish team will be the lower-ranked team in all of its matches because of the emergency substitution, which is a standard procedure in such cases. When asked if Astralis had provided evidence to support their claim of a medical emergency, Blast said, the medical substitute ruling used by Astralis is in line with previous events. More on that in a moment. We will continue to monitor the wider rule after every event. HLTV reached out to Blast again for clarification on whether Astralis provided documentation to support their request, and Blast responded, due to respecting and adhering to confidentiality, we aren't able to disclose any further information here, unfortunately. Astralis provided the following statement. This is spicy. Procedures for emergency replacements as set forward by Blast were followed. We have no further comment, and it shouldn't be necessary to educate a Danish-owned media company that we cannot discuss any individual employee. It's fucking crazy that Astralis just they just do not care about being likable at all. They will just like it's the brazenness of it. They know no one will do anything about it. Blast aren't going to kick them out. They've lied. They've objectively lied. We can see that. The agent has said Bro's fine. That's Bro essentially saying I'm fine. You have to think about it that way. It's his agent. It's also somebody with a sports health background. So it would be unethical for him to say he was fine if he wasn't. So he's putting his professional reputation on the line and is the de facto mouthpiece for the player, and he is saying he is fit for duty. The organisation, however, because they want more time with Cadians so they can maybe get to a major because they've missed 3 in a row, they've told a lie. And Blast should remove them. That is the only acceptable way, because they can't play with 4. You either make them play with Rugger or you remove them from the event and you invite somebody else last minute. That's what should happen. But it won't happen. And we all know why it won't happen. I love this as well. This is, again, what you get with Mira. It points out that Blast has faced criticism because it hasn't even enforced its own rules in the past. Evil Geniuses were given permission to replace Masuta with Hexed on an emergency after the French player's transfer from Vitality fell through. This despite the fact that EG had submitted Rush as a substitute, and Vorburg was the registered coach. Blast said at that time there were a number of complexities around this request that sat outside some of the more typical reasons for an emergency roster change. And in the lead up to Blast Spring Finals, Blast did a U-turn and prohibited FaZe from fielding Config as a stand-in for Rain after the move was met with resistance from other teams, as the Danish player was originally listed as a substitute for Heroic. By the way, what Mira isn't putting in there, Astralis were one of those teams that resisted. The irony. I know that. I've been told who was the loudest, one of the loudest voices in the room there. So Astralis get to just do that, and the reaction has been pretty much as you would expect. I love Janko. Janko even dropped in a burn at the on the ESL Pro League desk, which I might play for you. Here it is. The hubris from this org just never stops, does it? Now remember, their press officer, Astralis' press officer, said to Janko, after he criticised them, he said, "Oh, you want to talk about secrets and behind-the-scenes stuff? Maybe I'll tell some stories." And Janko, being a Chad, said, "All right. Tell your fucking stories then, dickhead." And they immediately backed down and deleted the tweets. You're a press officer. These people work on the shows that your team participates in. They are hired by your business partner to do that. And you're out there. Essentially, it's like one step removed from blackmail. Just unbelievable. Anyway, the hubris from this org just never stops, does it? And then he followed it up with another example. He said, "It's funny how FaZe couldn't get their emergency sub sorted a while back, but Astralis can, a Danish org, for an event in Denmark, despite Bro's agent publicly stating he is fine and has no medical emergencies. But this is all just a series of strange coincidences. With Valve ranking points on the line, this stuff just shouldn't be able to fly anymore. RMR seeding is just around the corner." Now, I'm going to show you some more reactions to this. What I will say at this juncture is ESIC should be handling this. I don't know if I need to go on. Do I need to say the lines, say the words? ESIC should be handling this. This should be an integrity breach. ESIC should be announcing an investigation immediately. ESIC should be saying straight away, if they've lied, we will get to the bottom of it. We're going to look at the paperwork. We work with Blast. But no, that's not going to be happening. But it should. Also, Janko's hit the nail on the head, as he is prone to do. Valve ranking points are up for grabs, and Valve ranking points are going to dictate everything about how much money you can make from stickers and getting to majors and all of the prestige, and the world rankings are going to dictate invites to tournaments. And if you want to run a tournament, you must invite people that are ranked here, 1 to 16, and all of this stuff. So points actually matter. It's not just some, fucking dick measuring contest on HLTV anymore. This is super, super, super important. It is the most important ranking we've probably got in any version of esports ever, right? It matters so much. You can't let fucking teams game the system then. And that's exactly what Astralis are doing here. They didn't want to play with Bro against Vitality and Device still being the IGL. They want more time with their new IGL, so they've told a lie, and Blast are letting them get away with it. And think about all the other teams that wouldn't get that grace because they're not Astralis. And we've got some examples. Carrigan said, remember, IGL of FaZe, who got fucked over in the past. I hope Bro and Casper Rugger recovers from their sick leave, as they are both out for Blast Fall Finals. Wish you both a speedy recovery, guys. And then he just followed it up in case the sarcasm wasn't self-evident. I hope it's not true, but as stated, emergency subs can only be applied in this case for Fall Finals. So he did that, obviously, I wish we had a players' association. I wish we had some form of just an entity that could just push back against this bullshit, but we don't. Moses, Professor Sex, got out of Cerebro to give his opinion, which I love it when Jason gives his strong opinions. I don't really care about Astralis not giving Bro a statement on his benching, but kicking him in the balls on the way out by saying he has a medical emergency so he can sub in his replacement is impressively scummy even for Astralis. Fuck that. Why can this org just not stop sucking in every way? Absolutely spot on. And he followed it up with legitimately something that can have long-term ramifications on his career moving forward. And if it really is a straight-up lie, there should be a heavy punishment from TOs upon the Astralis org. Now, by the way, it's incredibly bold, not being facetious here, of Jason to say that, because, as we'll get to when I play you the funny little Janko clip, Astralis will complain about this. Astralis will have already complained to ESL, saying, your broadcast staff are saying these things about us. How do I know they'll do that? Because they did it to Thorin. They did it to Thorin. When Thorin was working Blast. He criticised Device and called him and said, why don't you go and cry about it to your girlfriend? I think they were still together at the time, so it wasn't especially cruel. And Astralis saw that, complained to Blast, said, Thorin, you must tell Thorin he cannot tweet about us for the remainder of the event. And Thorin said, right, well, I quit the event then. You don't get to control my Twitter. And he's right. Ethically, that is the correct thing to do. No, you don't get to control my Twitter. I don't work for you. I'm a freelancer for Blast. I don't work for you. And so I know they've already complained about Yanko and Moses, because that's just how petty and pathetic they are. And remember, Nicola Niam always denies this. He did do it to me when I was at E-League as well, but whatever. I'm not picking at old scabs there on that one. There was also this from Heroic. Oh, Heroic got fucked over, but Astralis don't. That's weird. Weird that that's happening. This was this as well. We requested an emergency sub while having Saw and Nikodos listed. Nikodos was being transferred prior to the event, and Saw is not an active player. We were declined and then appealed the decision and got declined again. And that's the problem. It looks really fucking bad because you have declined all of these other fucking orgs that aren't Astralis, and they just get the benefit of the doubt, do they? Just ridiculous that we're here and we're just kind of, we're just gonna tolerate that. So this is what Astralis will really hate, because it went out. I don't know if you saw it. We'll talk about it in a little bit actually. But they broke the record for ESL Pro League viewership. They got the dream final of Eternal Fire and Na'Vi, two huge fan bases in the final in a best of 5. And so they broke the viewership record, and Yanko threw this out there while there was still like hundreds of thousands of people on stream because the final had just finished. And so here it is. This is what he said. It's great. Great little burn.
Astralis can use that money to pay bro's medical bills. A lot of counter.
It comes in hot. Because obviously Astralis had a pretty disastrous Pro League as well, and they only won $7,000.
Astralis can use that money to pay bro's medical bills.
Oh, he's on one now. He's on one.
Yeah. Give me some more, Yanko.
We've unleashed him. He's off the chain.
I have to reclose the door.
Oh, dear.
You get a monster in this guy, and look out.
No, my God.
A lot of counters.
So you can see as well, but all of the talent, they all know what you're fucking up to. They all know what Astralis have done. They all know it's bullshit. They're going to be working that event. It's like, we just have to, I just don't understand. Why do we have to keep letting Astralis get away with these things? Why? Are they really so important in the grand scheme of things? Are they an org worth breaking your own rules for, your own competitive integrity for? Is it worth Blast's reputation taking a hit and making it look like that they're in bed with Astralis and letting them get away with things they wouldn't allow other orgs to do? Is it worth it? I don't see the upside personally, but that's exactly what's going to happen and what's going ahead. Now, just to wrap it up, Astralis obviously knew that they were going to get fucking railed over this. So, I just love that this happened at the same time as the bad story about Blast and Astralis is out there. Blast TV work with Astralis to release a piece of content about Cadian. And that goes to the top of the subreddit. There's your updates, and it distracts. It distracts from what's really going on. And obviously you can see the headline, I'm open-minded to suggestions. And the other big quote from here that they led with on Reddit was, there's only 4 or 5 players I would give up my AWP for, and Device is one of them. And so it lures you in. See, oh yeah, can't wait to see Cadian playing with Astralis at Blast in this totally fucking illegal, against the rules operation that shouldn't be happening. It is just shit. It is shameless. And also, this level of contempt for you as a fan. They think you're so dumb. They think you are so dumb. This is on a level with American politics. Oh, are they upset with us doing something heinous? oh, well, let's just put out a positive puff piece with our friends in the media. Here you go. The shiny, tantalising prospect of Cadian playing for Astralis. There he is. Remember the good times? Yeah, he's shouting, wasn't he? He was shouting. Oh, there's the bad times. Remember the bad times? That was Liquid. That was bad times. But there were the good times. He's shouting again. Yeah. Yeah, there he is. He's about to take a bite out of the fucking Blast rulebook. So nobody can read them. So it's the shamelessness of it. I thought this was good as well. Love this from Carrigan. He just said, I might be unfit for Blast Media tomorrow. Now, if you don't know what he's saying there is all of the players that go to these events, it's in their contract that, you know, if you get told we want to do an interview with you or have you on a round table or, you know, have you do one of our silly little game shows for the sponsors, you have to do it. It's not up for debate. It's in your contract. It's part of the agreement that you have. And so, obviously, hey, if everybody can just fucking pretend to be sick and Blast don't want to do anything about it, maybe the players can just be sick for all of the content that they want to do. In fact, if I was the players on all of these teams, I would universally all refuse to do Blast Media work for this event and just let Astralis do it all. Every clip, every show, every interview, every roundtable, all Astralis players, all of the time. Just do that. Imagine how that would look. It would look fucking terrible, as it should, because this is terrible. I've said it a million times that, like, fucking Blast need a PR person so bad. I've offered to do it for free till they can find somebody better than what they've got now. Because this is, you look terrible here. And the Blastralis allegations are back, even though you're not linked as a company anymore. I'm being told that there might be rumblings of players showing a bit of solidarity. Because you can see Twists has said it, Apex has said it as well. And I'm telling you, players, you've got my full support. If I can help you with this, if I can help coordinate this media strike, get at me. Hit me up. This is my world. I used to be a trade union rep. I'm about it. Refuse to do your content for them. Just don't do it because they are letting a team you have to compete against cheat. That's what it is. Plain and simple. They have cheated the system again, Astralis. They get what they want, and anybody who says they can't have it, they attack. And everybody should be sick of it. I mean, sick to the back teeth of it, because it has been going on from the moment Astralis became Astralis. It is just ridiculous. So, maybe that's something I'll put my energy into. To wrap up that segment, I'm hoping, and we don't have a lot of time, but I am hoping that we're not going to go ahead with this because obviously this is egregious. This is an egregious violation of the rules. We're 2 days out. 2 days doesn't sound like a long time, but 2 days is reasonable enough to tell Astralis they can't participate, to go and get a replacement, or to tell Astralis they must use Rugger and or Bro. And that's the only way they will participate. You've got 48 hours to hash this out. But if they go ahead and they get to use Cadian, your tournament's a bust at that point. Your tournament just looks embarrassing, frankly. And this is again, people always say, why aren't you working with Blast? Because Blast can't handle this. They can't handle this level of criticism. I'm right. You're right. Those players who were saying we don't want to do the media are right. Mira is right. HLTV is right. Everybody can see this is a lie. Everybody can see it is an egregious violation of the rules. If this was any other org, almost any other org, we love the Americans. They get away with all sorts. But if it was almost any other org, they would be held to the rules. They would be held to the rules. Astralis are never held to the rules unless a journalist dedicates a disproportionate amount of time to fucking catch them out, lay it out in black and white for everyone, And even then, they just take a fine, slap on the wrist, walk it off. Like, enough's enough, guys. I don't know. I might try and... it's probably too late. I'll email Valve, maybe. I don't know. Like, this can't be the new standard. Not with ranking points up for grabs. This is, like, such an insult to every other team participating at that event. That it really is offensive, you know. So we'll see.